spring is coming, I need to propagate some plants. And I have some pothos here propagating in a cut-off water bottle, which is a very good, cheap way to do it. But I've decided I want something a little bit more permanent, and I want to make it more in my style for my home. So I've got a couple of areas where I can put propagation stations, and I've figured out a couple of ways to do it. So let's get started. Hello, all you DIY fiends out there. Welcome to the Creature Comforts channel. I live in a part of the US that's pretty cold in the wintertime, so I tend to cover up my windows for that pesky heating bill to keep it down. So I only have one window for my plants to get light in. So I'm going to make some propagation stations for this window. I'm going to make some stand-up ones. And then I have this cabinet that I'm going to make some wall-mounted propagation stations for. So today's task is to make some propagation stations for these areas. So I found these, what I thought they were for was for like displaying single roses and stuff like that, but I've seen a lot of people online use these for propagation stations, and that's kind of what I'm going to use. I'm going to build a stand for these, and I'm also going to utilize some test tubes that I've gotten from eBay quite a while ago. This is what the stand-up ones are going to look like. I rated my scrap pile. I got some small ones for the sides. I got some wider ones for bigger ones. And I've got some smaller widths for the test tubes. So what I'm going to figure here is figure about how long I want to make this. I want a little bit of space on the sides and then some spaces in between. I think we're going to go about 8 3/8. And we're going to cut 2 of those. I've tried doing the maths and all that and everything, and it's close, but it's not perfect. So I'm not going to tell you how to do that. There's calculators online to do that, but I'm pretty much just going to space these out by eye. You know, as long as my bottom and my top have the same pattern, which once I drill through the holes on the top, then I'll utilize that for the pattern for the bottom. It'll all match up, it'll look fine. But I've got to use 1.25 inches because these are just under 1.25 inches. And I'll check them after I do this. I just wanted to get the spacing pretty close. And I'll check them for center and draw these lines in there a little better. Make sure they're not too close to one side or the other, because this is cutting it pretty close anyways. I'm just gonna eyeball it, get them close, and that'll be where I'm gonna drill my holes. Alrighty, so I got the top and bottom done. Now I gotta make the sides. And I'm gonna make those about 5 3/4. Now we're going to go cut these off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to glue this together. We'll let that dry and we'll come back and do the next step. Let's get this all unclamped, put our tubes in there. And I've kind of noticed a flaw in my my design. Once these are filled with water, looks kind of tippy. To stop that from happening, I think we're going to put a little bit wider bottom on it. Plus it'll give us some more space for design aspects. I'd really rather not have it tip over. So we'll go through my scrap pile and see what's in there. Alrighty, I found this piece of scrap and it's perfect size. So what I'm going to do here is try to center this up, and we got about 9/16 on each end, about 9/16 all the way around it. I'm going to just glue this right to it. We'll try to get it pretty close to center. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just spread the glue out evenly. Just a clamp on each side will be fine. This way it'll give it a lot better base so it doesn't tip over as easily. We'll try to get this all pretty close to perfect, but I'll let this dry up, then we'll come back. This is what the wall-mounted ones are going to look like. The space I have available for these is probably about 14 3/4 inches, so we're going to make these about 14 1/2 inches. I think I might use my ruler. 14 1/2 inches. In measuring this up, I figure I can put 11 of these in there instead of 10. We're going to find center. Half is 7 1/4. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'll put a center line down the center of the board, so I get everything, all the drill holes kind of center. Now I'll go over a 1/2 inch, because these are about 3/4 of an inch. I'll go over a 1/2 inch on each side, and I'm just going to mark it, get it close to it. It's all eyeball. Doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it looks good to the eye, we're fine. And each time I'm just gonna measure over a 1/2 inch, because that's what I kind of figured up. But I'll finish these up and we'll go drill them out. Because this is going to be up against the wall, and I don't need the top to be further away from the wall than the bottom, so I had to cut out a spacer for the back too. And I'm going to put those on before I glue the uprights on each side. So we're going to glue these together. I think the top one, I will make it so it goes above the top, and then the bottom one, I think I'll space it below it. And then if I want to put 2 braces on each side, I can, because it makes it wider. Where if I put it like this, where it's towards the top, I still only have the same amount of room there. So we'll get these glued up. Okay, we'll have to let that one dry, and I'll probably glue the bottom up too, so that basically I just got to go get some more clamps. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, now we can glue this bottom up. Probably the best you can do is at least have 3 clamps. Glue this into place. This is kind of reclaimed 2x4, so when you cut them, sometimes they bow a little bit. But once you have both sides, a lot of times in the center, it'll bow out a little bit. And I just use Forstner bits. I just use a smaller size. I use the 5/8 here and 13/16 for the top, because these are 3/4, so I want just one bigger, just so it's got a little bit of room to move. Otherwise, all the test tubes would have slid in there, and they've been really tight. Do all the clamps. This is kind of what I meant by this will be the bottom, so that the backs face the opposite way. Now we want to get a measurement how far we want these pieces apart. So we'll go about 4 3/8. Now I got to make 4 pieces now for 4 3/8. Glue this thing together. Now these are kind of tricky glue ups, just because you got to kind of try to make sure everything's fairly square. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the top edge and that bottom edge, and then try to keep these all straight. Lock it together, and we'll do the same with the other side. Try to keep them right in the corners so that they're fairly flush. Yep, that's exactly why these things are so tricky. Now we will try to get these front ones in. They're just tricky because they're so small, and the levels that we're gluing together. Alrighty, we'll let that dry up and then we'll come back. Let's unclamp this. Now, when I did my cheap shadow box video, I said I was going to keep the backs of these. And these little tabs here that they hang the pictures with, will come in kind of handy right now. So we'll put these tabs on the back of here. These are kind of almost kind of center punched into the cardboard. We got little teeth on the back of it that basically kind of go into the cardboard and hold it in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bend those teeth back so that when I put them on the back of the wood, they'll almost nail into that. Just a little extra strength to hold it where it's supposed to be. See how that piece of cardboard came right out of the center of it? Just pop it right back out of there, and little teeth right on the bottom there. Bend them right back. And we're going to put them on the back of here. But I'm going to even them right out with the edge of the top there, just so I can tip them back and then get them over top of the screws and you won't even see them. I may even go down just a little bit more. It's like a 16th or a 32nd under it. There we go. Now the screws that I got are just a touch too long. I'm afraid that they'll pop through the front. So what I'm going to do here is I got my little cutting wheel. I'm just going to grind the tips off of them. And get it about 2/3 of what the screw was. Now we're just going to drill a small hole in the back here. I don't want to drill too far in. There we go, we got a way to hang it up. Our next task is to kind of decorate this. And I've got upholstery tacks so I can give it a riveted look. And I'm taking them all out because we are actually going to trim the pointed part off of it, just because of the fact that, first of all, I don't want to pound them all into this because it's really thin wood. It'll crack it all out. I'll show you how we're going to attach them. And I'm putting them inside this cup when I do it. So maybe we don't fling the sharp bits all over my house, because they snap off pretty good. This is pine, so it's pretty easy to push them down in, but I trim it as far down into that little divot as I can. What I usually get is the ones that are kind of got patterns on the top of them. They're usually $1 something a pack, or used to be. Just a cheap way to decorate something with rivets. Yeah, you can use the eyeballs and everything, but you pick it up and you can hear the eyeballs move around in it and everything. You get these $1 something for 50 of them, or whatever it is, 25 of them, whatever comes in a package, wherever you buy them. These are real metal. I just prefer not to pick up anything that I've decorated and hear the eyeballs move around in it. And I use the used ones because they're all bent. Ones I've used before for other things and took them off or whatever or whatnot, because I got rid of the thing that I put them on. But I'll do these up and then we'll figure out the spacing and everything. I'll come back and I'll show you kind of how I do that. I'm going to use hot glue to glue these down. Start in the center. Give me a pair of needle nose pliers, and because this is wood, we can get away with tapping it in there. That helps hold it on. It's got the hot glue underneath there, and it's binding with the wood, and it'll stay on there. Now, I don't worry about whether I got silver ones. I don't worry about whether I got gold ones. The only thing I worry about is whether I got the same pattern on the top. They come in colors, they come in whites, they come in blacks. Gold ones are brass, and then they have an aged brass as well. But I'm gonna do that. What I do is I go on each side of the center one, start out in the center first, and then I just keep halving it by eye every time. I'm not worried about the bubble up around it. That'll all peel off there, or if, rivets sometimes squash like that too. So just depends on what you like the look of. Now we'll go pretty close to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. The only reason I'm tapping them down is just because I didn't get all the center point out of it. If you have a sharper pair of nippers or clippers than what I do, you can get down in there further. But with the needle nose pliers in the way and all that and everything, it's a little tough to get to. But I'll continue on and we'll get these on there, and then we'll show you what we're gonna do next. Okay, just some little pointers. I usually watch my spacing for the sides, and then I'll go with pretty close to the same spacing. Again, it's not an exact science. If you've ever seen anything riveted that's antique, A lot of times the rivets are not perfect. But I figured I'd try and show you in a different view. And once you get one side done, then just try and keep it even across, depending on what you're riveting. Trying to get down in there a little bit more to see if I can get rid of the rest of that nail that's in there. Seems to be working. Just put your needle nose pliers as close to the tip, but the head of the tack as close to the tip. Throw a little bit of glue in there, set it on there. They don't have to be perfect, perfectly straight across. Now I'll finish them up and we'll come back. So I got it done. And then on this one, I got it mimicked slightly. So the top has two. And then on this one, I added, seeing how I can't put nothing on the bottom like this one, on this one, and I just added one lonely little one down there. So we're gonna paint these, and I'm gonna use a ice cream container top instead of using paper plates and wasting paper plates. I got some nutmeg brown. I'm gonna put a base coat on these. Now you may have to go back in and do a second coat on these just because of the rivets. The metal doesn't really always take it the first time. I'd imagine you could use a primer, but for how much you have to go back in afterwards and just touch up things, there's really no need for a primer because the touch up is just here and there. It looks like I gotta get some more paint out, so I'll finish base coating these and let them dry, and then we'll come back. Ice cream top for the win. Paint just rolls right back off of it. Just a little bit of water and a paper towel and it comes right off of it. Okay, what we're doing here is we're gonna make this into kind of a rust effect. We got some burnt umber, some pumpkin orange. And we're just gonna kind of blot it here and there and probably cover up some of the areas that try not to make everything look the same. You can blot it, you can pull it, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. Just kind of keep an eye on the way things are kind of looking. Maybe pull down through it. I didn't go through and do a second coat on it, so we can cover up some of that. Maybe kind of get some pictures of some rust out for you to look at. I've done this a few times. You can blend it down right into the mid-tone. The mid-tone is what I put on first. That was the nutmeg brown. I usually run in 3 or 4 colors. Sometimes just 3 colors will fool the eye. You want some of your mid-tone to show through. You don't want to cover it all up. Make sure you leave room for your oranges. The orange is where this really starts to pop. And you can get into a yellowy orange too. But I'm going to do these up in the burnt umber, and then we'll come back for the orange. A good way to save your paint if you're going to take some time waiting for the stuff to dry is to put some saran wrap over top of it and put it in the fridge. Now we're on to the orange. And then we just want to put hints of orange in here and just basically kind of blend it in. Again, not covering all the dark browns and all the light browns. If you get too much on it, you can kind of pull it back by moving your brush back and forth on it. A little bit of this orange goes a long way. Kind of a combination of patting your brush and then kind of smoothing it out a little bit. Just want to get the real heavy orange off of it by kind of smoothing it out with your brush. And this is going to be high enough that you can see underneath it, so we want to make sure we get underneath it far enough so that when people do see it from underneath, it's got the same effect, and that gives us kind of a rusty look. If nothing else, like I said, just take some pictures off of Google and have your computer sitting next to you and just kind of do some of the same effects that you see on your pictures. You don't have to do just one picture, have multiples. Maybe do some pull downs underneath where the rivets are, just because that's where the water would run. Once you kind of smooth it out with your brush a little bit, it's almost dry enough to grab, so it's not too much of a big deal to grab it with your fingers. I'm not going to see the back, but the back would be a good spot to practice before you move on to the visible areas, just to kind of get a feel for it. And there we go. Similar to rusty old metal. I'm going to do this other one, and then we'll come back and we'll show it hanging up and set up with the test tubes and the propagation tubes in it. Okay, I just wanted to show you what I do to clean up. Just kind of run some water over top of my paints, loosen them all up, take a paper towel, and it pretty much cleans it right up. Just because this is plastic, the acrylic doesn't like to stick to it, so it makes it a pretty good paint easel and cheap. Once you finish your carton of ice cream up, then use the top. And if it gets too dirty, toss it and grab the next ice cream top. Because I'd imagine after a while it'll get all scratched up and it'll get down into the scratches and stuff like that. Keep this with your paints. Now you got yourself a little easel, a cheap one. There's the propagation tubes and the test tubes. Now we'll get them hanging on the wall. Maybe get some pieces of pothos in there to propagate. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to see further content. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And like the video. See you all next time.